All right, today we have with us Rich Fox. Very happy to have you on today, Rich. I know we're going to talk about information dashboards here, but thank you for taking all the time. And how are you today?
Good, Andrew, and it's great to be here on the TDWI podcast.
Absolutely. You've had a pretty long history with TDWI. For those of the audience members that don't know, perhaps you can share a little bit more about yourself and your background.
Sure, be happy to. So I've been doing data and analytics for almost 25 years now, mainly running analytic teams at companies. I've also been in and out of consulting over that time. Though I started out in finance and accounting. So I'm a CPA. I worked at PricewaterhouseCoopers for 6 years, and I was a CFO, which is actually what led me into finding analytics and BI. Is I was a CFO of a real estate company up in LA, and we were living in spreadsheet hell, so I was looking for a better way to get our job done. But the other thing is that I was frustrated when we would present the monthly numbers and the quarterly board meetings, and the board would ask why the KPIs were moving the way they were, why are sales above or below plan? And I had difficulty answering that because I spent most of my day analyzing financial statements and financial data, and I wasn't really getting into the operational drivers, which we'll talk about as we get into talking about the courses that I'm going to be teaching here in April. So that led me into analytics and BI, and I found it so fascinating. I just continued to go in that direction. I teach analytics in a graduate program at San Diego State. I've also continued to work closely with the finance and accounting disciplines and community. So I've worked with the AICPA, the American Institute of CPAs, and about 4 or 5 years ago, they wanted to create a data-driven leader certificate program for all of their members. And I created that for them. And that is available for all of their members now on their website. And I also taught it at their annual conference. And then they also asked me to work with universities to help them determine how to build analytics content into the finance and accounting courses. So I ran a workshop with 100 universities, a full day workshop to talk about how would be the best way to approach this. And there were a lot of good questions coming from the professors because they're going, should we develop a separate course on analytics? Should we embed analytics into every finance and accounting class? And actually, just Monday, I spoke to two classes at Cal State Fullerton in the accounting department. They now have a technical class as part of the accounting curriculum where they're teaching them analytics and even Python coding. And I spoke to two of the classes on analytics and sharing real world use cases with them.
That's incredible. I mean, it's so valuable too for the college students to have a grasp on that as they enter into the full-time workforce. So that's really fantastic stuff. Well, you touched on it already there in that, and we are going to talk about your upcoming seminar that's going to be on April 17th through April 19th, very shortly here, less than a month away. Can you explain a little bit about what people can look forward to with that seminar if they're interested?
Yeah, so it's a 3 day seminar, as you just mentioned, and the TDWI has done a really good job putting together 3 courses that really are closely tied together and go together really well. So one of them is information dashboard design, another one is business requirements gathering, and the third one is data visualization best practices.
Amazing. And so I don't really want to step on the seminar itself and have you reveal all of the important points that will be revealed within those courses. But can you drill down a little bit further for folks as far as what information dashboard design and data visualization principles and practices might be?
Yeah, sure. So one might ask, well, why do we need a dashboard course? Companies have been building dashboards for years and years and years, and all companies have lots of dashboards. Unfortunately, a lot of those dashboards are not very effective. So if you think about how analytics can help business people perform better and improve business performance, it's helping them ask three questions. And really, when you think about it, everybody wants to know three things from information. One is, how are we performing? Two is, why is that happening? And three is, what should we be doing to improve performance? And of those three, the why is the most important. So until you understand the root cause of why something is happening, you can't make a decision to improve it. Now, to do that, though, is that you need to be able to look at what is driving your KPIs. And most KPIs are financial related, like sales and profitability and gross margin. And you need to connect your operational drivers to those KPIs. And let's just take an example. If you want to understand sales growth better, or the CEO or CFO asks, why is sales not performing better? You don't get to that answer by analyzing sales data, but by analyzing the drivers of sales, which are things like customer satisfaction, complaints and claims, order cancellations, product returns. So we go into depth in the dashboard design course on how do you connect the operational drivers of the KPIs to the KPIs to effectively build dashboards, so it could really help the business people and the end consumer using the dashboards really understand the why and the root cause, in addition to just understanding what is happening. Also in the dashboard course, we spend an entire module on performance management, and we go deep into the balanced scorecard. Now, many companies have a scorecard that they refer to as a balanced scorecard, but there's actually an official balanced scorecard approach, and it was created by doctors Kaplan and Norton from Harvard back in the 90s. And there were a lot of great concepts and practices that came out of doctors Kaplan's and Norton's balanced scorecard. So one of them is that the majority of your KPIs should be leading indicators rather than lagging indicators. And most financial metrics are lagging indicators, like last month's sales, last month's profits. But leading indicators are things like customer satisfaction, customer lifetime value, customer retention, metrics or KPIs around internal business processes and around our people and the HR area. Another great concept that came out of the balanced scorecard is what they called cause and effect diagrams, which is very similar to connecting drivers, operational drivers, to your financial KPIs to analyze the cause and effect that happens within organizations. And they would have these diagrams, which we get into during the course, on cause and effect change throughout the organization to really understand what's going on. And then another concept that came out of it is they recommended grouping all KPIs and metrics into 4 groups or categories that they called perspectives. And those 4 perspectives are financial, customer, internal business process, and then the last one they called learning and growth, which is where our people live, HR, training, all those types of things. And they developed strategy maps to connect all of these different perspectives and the KPIs and initiatives within the organization. So it's a lot more than just the course goes into a lot more than just building a basic dashboard. We get into a lot of how do you leverage performance management and things like the balanced scorecard, as well as how do you make the dashboard more actionable. Because if you talk to business people, many business people and companies will tell you, yeah, we've got a lot of dashboards and reports. Yeah, we've got a lot of insights, but not much of it is actionable. So I don't know how to improve performance. So business people are looking for actionable insights, and that's one of the keys of the course.
Fantastic. I think people will learn a lot from that. And as you mentioned, dashboards are pretty much ubiquitous with any, kind of office job these days, but sometimes the use of those might be falling short, at least effective use. So what are the important aspects of effective requirements gathering?
Well, once again, it goes back to what does the business need? And for a company to be data driven, there's several things that go into that. But one of the very important ones is aligning your data and analytics strategy with the business strategy. So when gathering requirements, we really need to understand what is the business trying to accomplish. And when I gather requirements, I always ask, what is the business question you're trying to answer? And how does this relate to the company's business strategy and your initiatives, as well as the KPIs that you're managing and that you're responsible for? So to just gather the requirements for a report and determine what columns go into it really does not suffice today. You really need to connect it back to the business strategy and what the business is trying to accomplish. So in the requirements course, we go deep into that. How do you really work closely with the business? And really, today, the data and analytics team needs to be partnering with the business and work closely with them to help them be a partner with them to drive business performance in all the different functional areas. And how can you then understand what they're trying to accomplish? So there's a concept referred to as the 5 Whys, which is in Six Sigma, and also the founder of Toyota used it all the time. And it's a simple concept where typically you have to ask why 5 times to get to the root cause of why something is happening, or to understand what is happening or what is driving performance. So we talk about the 5 Whys and how would you use that in a business setting to gather requirements, so that you can really deliver to the business what they're trying to accomplish. And then business is dynamic, it's not static. And what typically happens is that when you deliver something to the business, that hopefully answers their business questions, but many times it leads to new questions and more questions that they might have never even thought of before until they see the analytic solution that you've delivered to them. So we talked about how can you be proactive and start to anticipate some of those needs so that you're building a complete solution from the beginning, as well as determining what does the business really need. Because in fact, a friend of mine calls it dashboard land. How can you get out of dashboard land? Many business people today, as you've said about dashboards, is that many business people just say, I need a dashboard. And that's the first thing that they say. And they might need a dashboard, or they might need something else. Maybe they need a machine learning model or some other type of analytics to help them drive business performance in their area. So we get into that to really understand what is the business trying to accomplish.
Yeah, and I think something that makes sense for me to ask in a follow-up to that is, we know that dashboards are a form of data visualization, right? And I think perhaps something that you can talk to is the importance of being able to break that data into a visualized space. So can you expand on what that importance is, especially as it goes throughout the entire organization, not just with those people that are already potentially data literate?
Yeah, that's a great question. And data visualization, we've been creating charts and graphs for decades in business. And yes, spreadsheets and Excel can create some basic charts and graphs, and that's been going on for a long time in business. But data visualization has really gone to a whole new level today. And yes, we still build visualizations that are what one might call relatively straightforward and simple, like line charts and bar charts.
Mm-hmm.
But there's a lot of advanced visualizations today, like tree maps and chord diagrams and Sankey diagrams. And in the visualization class, we get into those advanced visualizations and what is use cases to use them, and when's the appropriate time to use them. Because even though they're advanced visualizations and many people find them interesting, they may not always be appropriate. So you may not include one of these advanced visualizations in a board presentation, for example, because it may not be appropriate in a board meeting, but maybe for the marketing department or another department in your company, they might really be valuable. And what's happening a lot in business is that many business people, even though they ask for dashboards and reports or they ask for other solutions, what they really want is the answer. So in visualization today, it's, well, how can you package together visualizations, typically in a dashboard, to deliver that and help give them the answer? And when you think about it, is that, like I said, business is dynamic, it's not static. So how can you make that dashboard always provide actionable insights and be interactive with effective visualizations that are quickly understood? Because the business people and our end consumers that use the analytical solutions, they have different skill sets and different skill levels. So we want to make everything relatively easy to use, but at the same time provide a lot of insight into what's happening. And that's why I said at the beginning, the TDWI has done a great job putting together these three courses, because they're essentially connected at the hip. Because you have to first gather the requirements, but you need to do it in an effective way to really help the business. And then as you're developing the dashboard, well, dashboards have visualizations. So doing the visualizations the right way and building them into the dashboard so it's all interactive and they all work together is really important. And then another thing that has become very popular in business today is data storytelling. Now, in this seminar, we don't get into data storytelling, but the TDWI does have an excellent class on data storytelling that I'm actually teaching in May in Nashville at the Nashville conference, which really takes all the things we've talked about just to the next level, because data storytelling has become so popular today. Because, like I said earlier, business people want the answer. So data storytelling gets into, well, how do you pull all of this together? Because good data storytelling is a combination of good analytics, good visualizations, and then a good understanding of what is coming out of all of that relates back to the business question or the business KPI that the business is trying to improve.
That's fantastic. I think that's the course that you mentioned, of course, that we're talking about in April. Sounds amazing, but so does potentially following up that with heading over to Nashville, TDWI Nashville in May. Rich, this has been a tremendous pleasure having you on the podcast here. I don't know if I need to ask you any other questions, because I don't want to give too much away as far as the information that'll be doled out in these seminars and in Nashville as well. But perhaps if there's a way for people to reach out to you that might be interested in asking you some follow-up questions here, if they listen to it, our audience members, what would the best way for them to be able to do that would be?
Yeah, the best way is through LinkedIn. Just reach out to me, send me an invite to connect, and you can send me a LinkedIn message also.
Terrific. Well, folks, you heard it here first. You can definitely see Rich at our virtual seminar coming up next month. But if you can't get there, head over to Nashville and you'll be able to catch him there as well. Rich, thank you so much for your time today. Really appreciate you coming on the podcast, and we hope to have you on again soon.
All right. Thanks, Andrew. It was a pleasure being here.